Welcome to the China Influencer Marketing Podcast. Each week, we speak with top influencers, marketers, and brands who share their experiences, strategies, and tactics for influencer marketing in China. Here's your host, Lauren Hallanan.
Hi, everyone. In this episode of the China Influencer Marketing Podcast, we chat with April Lee from multicultural creative agency Visionarists. Part of the reason I wanted to speak with April was her professional background, but I also wanted to speak with her because she's a Chinese millennial living here in the US, and I'm kind of continuing the theme from the last episode, which is that I'm trying to get more young Chinese perspectives on the podcast. In this podcast, we discuss her opinions on Chinese social media platforms and some of her favorite accounts to follow. April is a huge fan and a contributor for the company Dealmoon, which is the leading social shopping community for Chinese expats around the world. Dealmoon promotes discounts for consumer brands across many categories, from fashion and beauty to restaurants and travel, and it helps these brands reach Chinese language shoppers. They have several popular accounts on Weibo sharing deals for specific industries, as well as their own shopping app. If you're a foreign brand and you haven't heard of Dealmoon, then it's definitely worth taking a look into. April also mentions a popular Weibo influencer, Liziqi. Her content is very different from the majority of influencers that we see, and her massive following really speaks to the trend of many young Chinese people desiring a simpler life that's closer to nature. I put a link to her social media channel in the show notes, so I definitely suggest that you check it out. Before we start, I just want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor, Parkloo. Parkloo is China's premier influencer marketing platform. Learn more at parkloo.com. I also just want to share a little bit about my experience with Parkloo's free tools. I have been using some of their free tools for a lot of my work, my research, my writing lately, and I really strongly suggest you check them out. So I've talked about them before on the podcast, but Parkloo has a free KOL budget calculator, and this is super, super helpful to understand the current state of influencer marketing and how much it's going to cost. Because trust me, it costs a lot more than you think it's going to. A lot of brands go into influencer marketing in China thinking that it's going to be the same or cheaper than it is here in the US and other Western countries. But believe it or not, it's actually more expensive in most situations. So it's really interesting to play around with their KOL budget calculator. The other thing is that many people don't know that if you sign up for an account on Parkloo, you can get free access to their analytics and search tools. And the free account has a limited number of searches each month, but it's super useful. You can discover lots of new influencers. You can see, you can put in brand names and keywords and see what's coming up on Chinese social media channels. It's just really interesting tools. And they're all free. As I said, it's just limited if you have a free account. So I definitely suggest that you check those out, even if you're not a brand that's looking to do influencer marketing, but you're just interested in this topic. I strongly suggest that you play around with these tools. So anyway, let's get back to the interview. So now let's start our interview with April. Hi, April. Welcome to the China Influencer Marketing Podcast. I'm really happy to have you on the show.
Hi, thank you, Lauren. It's my honor to be here talking to you.
I just want to start off the show by asking you to maybe just briefly introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? Where are you living these days? What are you up to?
Yes, of course. So my name is April Lee, and I'm currently working for Visionarists, which is a creative shop based in New York City, in Chelsea. So where I am originally from was China, and I used to study and work in Shanghai before I moved to New York City. So I lived in Shanghai for 10 years, and now I have been in New York for 5 years.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to have you on today, partially because you are in this like advertising marketing industry, but also because you are, a young Chinese person who is living here in the US, and I'm trying to dive more into understanding, like on this podcast, understanding kind of the social media habits and opinions of young Chinese people, because I feel like a lot of China experts talk about what do Chinese millennials like, and what are Chinese millennials behaviors, and I wanted to get some young Chinese people onto the podcast to actually talk about their what they think about social media and influencer marketing.
Yes, of course. So first, I don't consider myself that young anymore in this audience category, and but I do know, because I've been also paying like a close attention to the social media advertising, and I do see the trend is kind of different among those like younger generations in China, and they might be spending like a less time on those like traditional media platforms, but they are more like into those. I don't know if you have heard about Douyin. And sort of like the Musical.ly in China, and also like some other live streaming platforms. And Weibo is always like quite popular, but I'm not sure about like if young people they're using it like actively. They might be following some accounts, but doesn't mean they're really like engaging. But WeChat is definitely the most active platform among like no matter what generation, I guess. Like it's like an I don't know, like a phone number. So everyone needs it, and they do post less socially on the WeChat. It's
like on the
more
moments.
They post less on the moments, and but I do see more and more ads on moments that's like promoted by the brands, and also some public pages on the WeChat. But I do think for the younger people, WeChat is more like a communication tool.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I know that you're probably thinking, like, when you're talking about young people, you're probably thinking like college kids, right?
Yeah,
or
like 20 something.
Yeah, but I'm still including you in this group because I think that you're part of the group of millennials, which now millennials can even be up in their mid to late 30s, but I think that a lot of companies are interested both in like the very, like the college kids, but also in people in like their late 20s and early 30s, because people like us have, more spending power than maybe a college kid does. So for you yourself, which like Chinese social media platforms do you use the most?
So I would say maybe aside from WeChat, I use Weibo the most. And recently, I'm trying to catch up with the Douyin and some other, like those younger generations app.
Do those apps like appeal to you, or are you just trying to like use them to understand like what's going on?
A little bit of both, because it's kind of like at the beginning, if you don't know what the app was about, when you open it, you will feel a little bit weird by looking at all those contents. It's like a totally different vibe and different environment from the other existing platforms. So I think people are definitely getting pretty innovative about the content, and those, especially those younger kids, they're pretty brave, like trying like new stuff, and things can go viral easily on those platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that like from an entertainment standpoint, like I think Douyin can be really addicting, just like flipping through the videos. but I don't know. I still like Weibo a lot too, even though I don't know. Sometimes I think it's changed a little bit, but I still like Weibo a lot.
Yeah, I like Weibo because Weibo is very clean and like everything is it's just a very clear to use. And when it comes to Douyin, like I never posted anything. I've only spent maybe couple like maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes to like just to look at all those clips, but I never really like maybe I tried, but I feel like it's pretty difficult for me to catch up with the content wise creation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I still haven't figured out like how do you make a video that's only 15 seconds long that's interesting? Like it seems really difficult to me.
It does, yeah.
So now that you've been in the US for a while, do you use Western social media platforms more often too, or do you still mostly use Chinese platforms?
So now I am using both. I use Chinese social platforms and to communicate with my friends back in China, and also like stay in the circle with all the friends here in the United States, like those Chinese friends. And but I do use Instagram more and more lately, and because there are also a lot of influencers, I need to like just to stay like just to keep following them and then see like what is trendy right now, what is kind of coming up.
Okay. Yeah. That seems to be the typical, like from people that I've talked to, the kind of go-to Western social media platform is Instagram, I think, for a lot of like Chinese people living abroad.
Yeah, I mean, I try to use Snapchat, but it's not really my thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Facebook is like, I don't even consider myself being active on Facebook anymore. You only add some friends and to like talk on the messenger, but I don't think I would use Facebook to like post about my personal like life or anything.
Yeah. I same here. I think that's how it is for a lot of like Americans as well. Like young people aren't really using that as much anymore. So I want to go back to like Chinese social media platforms. Who are some of your favorite accounts or influencers on the platforms? Could be WeChat, Weibo, any platform.
Yeah, so I think for Weibo, I followed a lot of those accounts I follow was like when I first started using it. And then lately I've been like I saw a couple channels like Liziqi, the girl who is living in the mountain and who created everything like by her hands. It's like she's like living in those like Asian time.
Oh,
And
I haven't
it's like
heard about her.
Yeah, it's quite enjoyable to watch, even like when I'm literally like when I feel like really relaxed, like when I watch her video, because the whole flow, the whole nature, like the environment, is just like a very the flow. I like the flow a lot, and it's not like she was trying hard to like to be a YouTuber or anything, but it's all like a very natural, and very different from other content creators. So I think you can definitely check that one out. And there is also like some other like food channels I would follow because I do like cooking. So I would watch some accounts called like 日食记 and 爱做饭的芋头 or some like they're like a bunch of them, like those influencers. They would post videos of them like cooking, and some of those are even script. And when I was in China, I even visited one of their office, and I saw their studio. It's like very professional. The whole production team is professional, and they have the whole like the office is like huge. So they
Yeah, so
definitely
it's like an actual produced show now.
yeah, like 日食记. So they actually made like an trying to make a lot of like how to say those like merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
They created their own like e-commerce lines, and also they work with different. They start developing like different channels, like DIY stuff.
Do they sell like cooking utensils and stuff?
Yeah, they sell like food, like those snack packs.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and maybe but they do commercial. I mean, they do the sponsored contents for some certain brands. A lot of them are like cookwheels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
and
yeah.
yeah, and what else? I also follow some like those like shopping guide, like a big shopping guide channels on the Weibo, which is called Dealmoon, right? So they have like multiple accounts, and they release all the newest like coupon information, and a lot of students, Chinese students who are living here in the States, they do follow their contents, and whenever they post something about like a brand or about a discount, some event, like people would maybe they would go or share with their friends.
And Dealmoon is specifically like for shopping abroad, right?
Actually, they're also expanding. So at the beginning, it was more like a shopping guide platform, and now I would say they have reached to the offline um, branches. So they have offices in a lot of cities. They recently opened their office in Philadelphia as well. So they have team in New York, in LA, in a lot of like cities, and they would go to the like local merchants. So they find restaurants, they find like beauty spas, a lot of like local merchant shops, and they would give them an opportunity to do the commercial or like do a cross platform marketing with their resource.
Yeah, I think that they're really smart with what they did, because they're pretty much like they're marketing exclusively to the Chinese community
audience.
here in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, I remember before I came to the States, that was the first thing I did, like, to download their app and to check out all their deals on their app or on their website. And they even have those forums like BBS, and you can find your roommates. Like, they kind of like just give you all the information you will need when you're living abroad.
Yeah, I feel like in some ways they're not like the same, but a little bit similar to how some people use, like Red, 小红书, that like they're a little bit similar, because it's like it's talking about products from overseas, and people are writing reviews and things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty much, so you like a lot of like food and shopping.
Yeah, because I do also write reviews for Dealmoon, so I was pretty familiar with their stuff, and they also kind of provided me with more options when I'm living in New York. Yeah, so I think that's pretty cool. Like the platform is actually giving you like more and more opportunities, and you can even help them to find like a local business to work with.
Oh, okay. So you can help like recommend some businesses to them. So have you ever bought anything or traveled anywhere because you saw it on social media, or like saw an influencer promoting it?
I definitely did. I am sure I've because I always value other people's reviews, and whenever I want to buy something or I want to visit some places, I would definitely check out their pictures and also the text reviews. And if there is anything negative, it would always have like an impact on me. And if it's like a really good review, like everyone's talking about it, and the big influencers, or like not just influencer, and also like those micro influencers are all like tweeting or like talking about it, I would give it more. I would have more confidence in those products or services.
Mm-hmm. Do you like turn to any specific person, or do you just kind of like search for that topic on social media?
So I think, like for example, for restaurants, I followed some like influencer on the Weibo, and they would repost other followers' content. So some followers, it would, if they post something about the food, about the exhibition, the gallery, and when I saw it, I would always mark it and save it for later for the weekend.
Gotcha. So it's like, maybe it's a lot of times, like if it has to do with like food or just something to do around New York, you'll kind of like, if you come across it when you're just browsing social media, then you'll save it for later, and then you'll kind of draw on that when you're thinking of restaurants to go or things to do or something like that.
Yeah, and same for like cosmetics or for skincare, a lot of like other I'll say like those beauty products, because you definitely need to see some good reviews before you purchase them. Since like you okay, so you want to know like if they're selling very well in the States, but doesn't mean they work very well for Asian people. So you kind of want to see the Asian influencers' feedback about those products.
Gotcha.
And they would always give you like a very, I would say like they would give you this like a test review about like maybe 10 products at the same time. So they compare them, and you will have a better sense about what you want and what might work best for you.
When it comes to like beauty and skincare, can you think of any of the influencers that you kind of go to for that information?
I think on Weibo there are some like 北美美容快报 or some like influencers like that. They specifically would post all the like all the posts are about beauty and about like makeups, so like very specific content. So when I would be following them, because they would always release those like newest products, the results of the review results for those products.
Okay.
And yeah.
Got it. So you have like very specific people that you follow because you just want to get their reviews and their advice.
Yeah, I guess I would follow specific people for specific reasons. But sometimes I do see like some, like for example, like those food bloggers, they might be posting about some other products, and depends on how relevant it is to me, like in my life. And I might also consider, just because it looks cute in that video.
Yeah. What type of content do you usually like the most? Like, do you prefer to watch videos, or would you rather read a WeChat article, or just like scroll through some pictures? Like, what kind of content do you like to consume the most?
I think also depends on the platform. Sometimes when I'm on the WeChat, I would like to read those articles which are more, how to say, not so informative, but maybe a little bit like the content should have some like emotional stuff, so like relevant to your life. So they might be talking about the season changing, or like some like those social phenomena, like in happening in China. Something like kind of make you feel like emotionally like connected. And I think those articles would grab my eyes. And when it comes to Weibo, it's more like about maybe entertaining. Like if this is something that sounds like really interesting, I want to learn more, like cause your curiosity. Yeah, so it's like, okay, so the news sounds like so they might need to work a little bit harder with the copy on the Weibo, I guess, just to capture people's attention.
Got it. Yeah. What about videos? Do you ever like to watch videos or
Weibo or
just on any like do you like video content or do you prefer like like pictures?
I think actually I saw most video contents from Weibo, the Weibo channels, because most of those, even for those American contents, like because a lot of channels they're trying to, they always trying to find like what's the newest videos on the YouTube or like on other channels platforms, and they would move them to the Chinese, the Weibo channel. And they would like maybe use the translation or like just to they would select those like most interesting ones for I guess for Asian audiences. And so even though a lot of audiences they don't have the access to YouTube or Facebook, but those contents do go viral on Weibo like very quickly.
Yeah. It's kind of like even though some of these influencers maybe don't have a like their own accounts in China, they still are like their content's very popular in China, maybe because somebody's just reposting it or something like that.
Exactly. And they don't even know. And I think later maybe some teams even find them. I think there are like some influencer companies or agencies or some like accelerators. They would be like, okay, so how about we help you to create this account on the Chinese social media platforms. And I think a lot of them started their platforms on Chinese social like that.
Yeah, because maybe somebody saw the potential because they saw that their content was already doing really well in China. So they were like, you should open your own channel before everyone keeps taking your content.
Yeah, so and it doesn't cost them much because the content's already there. All they need to do is just the translation and like a local team or like a couple people to write the copy, and that's it.
Do you think that that always works, or do you think that's just like some types of influencers and some types of categories, like, you know what I mean? Like Western content, can it always appeal to the Chinese audience, or is it just like certain types of content?
Definitely there are certain types because, the cultural difference and people, they have different tastes when it comes to what is entertaining to them. So maybe some art like form is not like very familiar to the Chinese audience, and it might take longer for them to accept. But definitely something like more like entertaining, maybe some like music related. I remember the influencer whose name was Jason Chen. He was like American Chinese living in California, and he's been just like singing all those songs on the YouTube. And one day, someone found his song, the Chinese song. He was singing in English, and it went viral in China. And everyone is like listening to his music before he even realized. And he started talking to the Chinese audiences after that. And I think he also took a couple trips to China, and a lot of like medias or maybe some events were inviting him over for like a live performance. So they definitely have their market. They just need to find the right angle. And if it's a little bit cultural relevant, it would give the Chinese audience a lot of like excitement. If they saw like, okay, this American person like singing a Chinese song in the US, and they would be super excited about it.
Yeah. I think yeah, there's definitely potential for certain people.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was just that I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit with Dealmoon and some of the other social media accounts that you follow, but do you feel like brands are doing anything to try and reach Chinese people who are living abroad? Because I mean, because I think like Dealmoon and some of those other things, those are started and run by like Chinese people. So I mean, that's not really brands trying to reach the Chinese people living abroad. That's kind of like Chinese people trying to reach the Chinese people abroad, you know? But like, do you think that brands are trying to, you know, market to Chinese people abroad, or not really?
Yeah, of course. I think brands are definitely doing that. So, for example, like Gravity, the agency we work with, it's a multicultural agency, and they do have this they do focus on some niche market like Chinese like Chinese audiences in the U.S. markets, and they do like customize those advertising pieces just to promote around them, like digitally or among all different channels. So I think it depends on the brands. Some brands, they do know they have like a huge Chinese like audience base, because maybe it's, I don't know, like for example, like bank service, maybe like HSBC or some banks, they already know they have a huge market for like those Chinese consumers. They definitely would try hard to reach those people, and they know they cannot use the general market strategies to reach them because they won't be there. And they need to find where these customers spend time, and what social media they're using, and in what language. Maybe a lot of Chinese audiences, they don't even like watch any American shows, or they might be just like really in their own circle. So it might create some like a barrier for brands to reach to them if they don't understand the Asian market at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like, you know, there's a lot of brands that are marketing to the Asian market, but they often market to like Chinese people who are living in China, as opposed to, you know, Chinese people who are living abroad. I feel like a lot of times they miss out, or not miss out, but they just kind of don't pay attention to the fact that there's a lot of Chinese people living abroad. And oftentimes these people, you know, maybe have more spending power, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I think it's a missed opportunity for a lot of brands.
Yeah, I think a lot of brands, they do need some more education on this, because they, in their opinion, they're still thinking about their like general market like heavily, and they are very cautious about spending money in this like niche market, because they don't know. It seems like a pretty small market share to them, but actually maybe the average spending is much higher than the general market. And so that's also like what the agency has been trying with those like car brands, and like bank, and a lot of traditional accounts.
Gotcha. The last thing, I just wanted to ask that, you know, if people want to get in touch with you, like they hear the interview and they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So definitely can reach out to me by email if you have any question about multicultural advertising or anything.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me. It's been fun talking to you.
Hi, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that interview with April. You can find links to all of the influencers and accounts that she mentions, as well as her contact info in the show description or in the show notes on chinainfluencermarketing.com. I'd love to hear what you thought of the episode. You can leave me a comment on chinainfluencermarketing.com or reach out to me on LinkedIn. And if you like this episode and know somebody else who might like it too, please don't forget to share it. Thanks, and talk to you next week.